How do I know if I'm doing it right? Short answer, uncertainty is normal on this path. And it's not the answer that most people want to find. They want the easy, pretty packages that they can just, take off the shelf on a full moon and put it back on and then don't think about it for the rest of the month. But if you're here at the Morrigan Academy, if you're listening to me, Laura O'Brien, about Irish spirituality and this goddess in particular, then you're not that person and you understand that uncertainty is normal on this path. You're not looking for the easy answers or the shallow solutions. But today what I'd love to give you is a clear win that you can trust in your body by the end of the episode. So stick with me and see what you get out of it, all right? So I just want to kind of reassure you at the start here. The wobble is expected. It's not a failure. There's no 100% certain clear guidance or answers that anybody can give you. And honestly, if anybody is saying that they have all the answers, turn on your heel and run a mile, because that is not your spiritual advisor. It shouldn't be anybody's spiritual advisor, because nobody has all the answers. So if you're having wobbles, this is not you failing, right? And within the Irish tradition, within my own practice, and I don't think that it's just in the Irish tradition, but it's certainly very, very common here. And the spiritual and magical practices that I have always gravitated to, both naturally and guided by my guides and guardians of the other world, are right relationship. And I say that it's here in our culture because the tradition of right relationship is us as a communal society, as a tribal society, us taking care of each other, so being in right relationship with each other, taking care of the land, being in right relationship with your own land. We have always been an agricultural society, primarily. And also then there's the more metaphysical side of things, where our leadership has to be in right relationship with the other world, as well as with the land and the people. So this kind of right relationship is really built into our culture and our traditions. And most Irish people might look at you sideways and not really know what you're talking about if you use this terminology. But actually, if you start describing it that way, the relationship between communities, between families, between, I suppose in more ancient days, between leadership and the people, because currently everything is under the sovereign's lie, which is Gau Flaha, which is wrong relationship. The leadership is definitely not in right relationship with our people or our land currently. That's where we are. That's what we're trying to fix, right? But if you start explaining it in these terms, excuse me, I have a bit of a sore throat today. Yes, Irish people will understand it fundamentally. It is a part of our culture. So what is this about when it comes to spirituality? Again, it is part of many cultures, and I would say probably mostly tribal-based cultures, to be honest, or native cultures. Because right relationship, it gives this better measure than perfection. Again, we don't have to be perfect. We don't have to never fail. What we have within our spiritual traditions here in Ireland is right relationship guided by sovereignty rather than certainty, and that's okay. So let's look at the mythology, right, as I like to do, and one that I often refer back to is at the River Unshin, before the second battle of Cath Maige Tuired, the Dagda meets the Morrigan at the ford. The Nihenicus of this meeting, so that means the lore of the place name, gives the title to that place as the bed of the couple initially. And after their exchange, she instructs him on what to do and where the foe, the enemy, will land in the coming battle, and says that she will go to strike Indech, the leader of the enemy, and take the blood of his heart and the kidneys of his valour. Then, later, she comes back and she gives 2 handfuls of blood to the host at the ford, and the ford is then named, the Nihenicus changes, and it's then named the Ford of Destruction from that act. That's the mythology. That's from Cath Maige Tuired. I recommend Morgan Daimler's translation of the original. You can find it on The Evil Empire online. But this is a very early, clear template for doing it right. Not extraction from one side, not entitlement, but mutual exchange and instruction in the service of the people, the land, and the work to be done. So, for some context, in Irish terms, right relationship is reciprocity, it's good counsel, it's taking the next right action under sovereignty, both your own personal sovereignty and the sovereignty of the people, what's right for the people, what's right for the tribe, what's right for the land. It's not this modern idea of flawless devotion or constant signs on demand, to meet a needy practitioner, right? One of my students put it really simply one time when they were giving me a review. Once, this is a quote directly from my student, I won't name them, but once I started tiny daily offerings, the constant self-doubt eased off, and I stopped waiting for big signs and just lived the relationship. End quote. So that is what we're going for, is this lived relationship, this relationship with the goddess. And a small daily commitment for this person was the shift from second guessing to aligned action. And that's available to you today. It's at the heart of everything that I teach about this goddess. So what I'd like to do is give you a really simple practice, as I try to do through this podcast. And this is the start of season 2, by the way. So there's a whole other season 1. You can go back and get a load of practices, really simple things that can be done, what I call the kitchen table practices, can just be done very simply, first thing in the morning, last thing at night before you go to bed, whatever it is. So we're going to give you one of those. So breath 1 is to root. So you're going to soften your jaw, exhale longer than you inhale, and say quietly, sovereignty begins with truth, while sensing your feet or the seat as contact with the land. So this first breath is about rooting in. These are the 3 sovereign breaths, right? Breath 2 is to relate. So ask the question to the universe, to the goddess, to your ancestors, to whoever. What is fair exchange here? And you'll be naming what you've received and one concrete thing that you can give back today, however small. So you can have an ask, but always reciprocity is at the heart of it. So what are you going to give in return? It could be an offering, it could be a prayer, it could be a recognition, it could be telling a story about them, it could be anything. It could be donating to a particular cause, it could be supporting somebody, it could be anything, right, that you think is going to be fair exchange for what you want from them. And again, reciprocity is really at the heart of everything that we do. We never feel entitled to take anything, right? And then breath 3, we're going to choose. So ask, what is the next right step? And pick one action that you can schedule now, that you can do now, and then speak this one line. I will loosely call it rosc, right? But it's one simple line in the rosc style, let's say, right? Because there's a lot more to ancient Irish poetry, that's R-O-S-C, rosc, than that. And we do have whole other podcast episodes on the rosc as well. So anyway, speak this one line before you start. You say, strength in truth, action in fairness. Now, just briefly, a rosc is an older Irish incitement style poem or poetry or chanting that we hear in the Cath Maige Tuired, the second Battle of Maige Tuired, which we were talking about before, when the Morgan and Lou stir courage before a battle, basically, or, for example. So just keep it short, rhythmic, and said out loud to prime your body for right action. Now, a quick journal prompt and recap would be, where did I choose alignment over certainty today? you want this core idea in one line. Doing it right is right relationship under sovereignty, practiced through small reciprocal steps, give and take, not any kind of fantasy chase for perfect certainty, because it doesn't exist, right? So for foundations in this, you can see earlier episodes such as Who is the Morrigan and What is Right Relationship with the Morrigan. Then for a deeper structured study, you could consider the course at the Morrigan Academy, which is Understanding the Goddess Morrigan, in your own time. If a light companion helps, you can just in your journal do up a simple 1-page daily sovereignty tracker of breath, action and exchange, and just keep it by the kettle or the desk, or in your car, so that you do it before you start driving. Obviously don't do it while you're driving, that would be very silly, but just keep it somewhere to make wins easy and visible, and just have this as a sheet or a checklist to just go through this practice on a regular basis, because consistency is really what matters here, right? So if you're ready to go deeper, if the Morrigan is calling you, or if you are calling to her, you really need solid ground to stand on. So I would suggest, because of course I do, I'm trying to get to be a Llewellyn bestseller for 10,000 copies, so you could help me on my way by getting the book, The Morrigan, Ireland's Goddess, Sovereign Secrets from an Irish View, by myself, Laura O'Brien. It's available wherever books are sold. This book is not, it's very pretty, but it's not a shelf decoration. It's a working manual for sovereignty. It's the book that I needed when I was starting out, that I had to figure out all by myself, right? Because nobody else is teaching about the Morrigan the way I am, and there's nobody Irish who has done anything like I have, certainly. So what I wanted to create, and what the Morrigan wanted me to create, was a working manual for sovereignty with source material, proper translations, and the work laid out plain, so that you can really step into right relationship with the Goddess Morrigan. So I hope that helps. Go buy the book, and if you already have it, please leave me a review on Amazon, on Goodreads, wherever you review. Write a blog post about it, do a YouTube video reviewing it, put it on TikTok, put it on Instagram, tag the Morrigan Academy. Really helpful. If you get anything from my work, if you've gotten anything out of this podcast, a little review, a little recommendation is really how you would give back in right relationship to me. Okay, with that, slán go fóill, and I will see you next week. We're going probably for Monday episodes with season 2, and I'll try and get them out Monday-ish every week, okay? So slán, catch you in the next one.